Olympics is an interesting event because it is the ultimate match between media and technology. And I think you're going to see how the two work together. Because it is such a massive event, it actually helps accelerate media usage in certain sort of ways. And you're going to see how the viewer corresponds to that. A quick back to look at London, if we could. There we go. In London, you can see there was an awful lot of metrics that are going on here. First of all, if you know TV ratings, you'll know that the 17.5 national rating, pretty rare in television. It puts it right up there with Super Bowl is way up higher, and then you get about a 22 for the Academy Awards, maybe about a 19 for the Grammys. So at 17.5, you're pretty much there, and you're there for 17 days. Or in the case of Sochi, 18 days. You can see the weekend and daytime ratings are good. In London, we had 160 million video streams because everything was streamed live. It will be again in Sochi. 8 million people downloaded the app so they could access it. 80 million unique fans, either on NBCOlympics.com, which added up to 2 billion page views, 217 million viewers overall. And you can see with that kind of a scale that the Olympics represents the top 10 TV events of all time. Super Bowl and individual night is higher on an individual night, but for a TV event, it's all. And you can see that NBC had 9 of the top 10. In 1994, CBS snuck in there with Tanya and Nancy beating each other's knees, created a little bit of controversy, made it a little interesting. That's the only one that actually broke through the NBC dominance in there, and we'll see where Sochi turns out. And as you can see that the summer games are actually a little higher rated than the winter games. But a couple things on the top here that I want to point out too. 87% of the country watches the Olympics. And so what that means is it is a massive event that touches nearly everybody. It touches both the technologists and the people who are emerging technologists. It really happens to everybody, and so accelerates media usage. And as you can see that if you add it all together, it takes the entire family of ESPN networks and doesn't quite match it. So this is a very interesting slide because it shows that more equals more. And this was sort of a surprise to us to a degree because we didn't know if we showed everything live so that people could watch it wherever they wanted, however they wanted, on the device that they wanted, whether it would affect the prime time viewing. And the media, the way we make most of the money is still off of the traditional prime time television viewing. So we wanted to make sure that the ratings were protected. Took a little bit of a leap of faith here, but this is a very interesting slide. First of all, for people who only watch television, for London, they watched 4 hours and 19 minutes, which seems like an awful lot, but remember, there was about 12 hours a day on, but still, it was 4 hours and 19 minutes that they watched just television. You add PC and laptop, now you're up to 5 hours and 18 minutes, but interestingly enough, television increased. Okay, let's add one more device. Now we're adding mobile. So you can take it with it pretty much wherever you go. You're up to nearly 7 hours of watching, and television has increased again. Now you're adding tablet, which is truly a transformative device as it relates to Olympic viewing. And I think you'll see that more in Sochi. We're now up to almost 8 hours and 30 minutes, pretty much double what it was with TV. And you're over at 6 hours on television alone. So what happens is more people watch more. Viewers that consume 4 devices, 42% more television than those who watch on TV alone. Interestingly enough, it also created the rise of the simultaneous viewer. People that watched on television and some of the device at the same time. Second screen viewing. It exploded during the London Games. We think it helped accelerate TV usage that way beyond that. So what you can see is that 25% of the time of all Olympic viewing that was watched on television was accompanied by some second screen device. And those people that had a second screen device, either laptop or tablet or all those things, they used it to watch the Olympic experience and enhance their Olympic experience 50% of the time. Pretty much an extraordinary amount of second screen usage going on, again, to be accelerated in Sochi. Also, what we learned is that the time shifting actually helped the viewing. Now, you can see that from the earlier chart that talked all of the gross audience that increased with all the tablets and things like that. But this is interesting. 82% of the viewers who streamed television turned in again in prime time. The results did not change. They were virtually the same. If you watched early on, it was pretty much the same results. The one thing about the Olympics, and unlike other sports, is that like the Kentucky Derby, it is the one event that skews female. Because in the case of the Olympics, it's less about the results. It's actually far more about the journey. And one of the reasons that that particular works because people saw it happen live, but they wanted to see the storytelling version of it in prime time. 45% more time spent watching the Olympic coverage in prime time if they happened to screen it earlier during the day. And in the case of Sochi, virtually every second of every event will be streamed live. Now, in the case of Sochi, it starts at 3 in the morning. So if you want to get up, you can. Or if you want to see it, you want to check it during the course of the day, you can. Or if you want to see it in prime time, you can. But quite honestly, it will accelerate the viewing. And one of the things that we learned in the case of Los Angeles was that it actually sort of shut down the system, and they demanded that people who were utilizing their tablets and smartphones and or computers during the day in the Los Angeles system to not do that because it pretty much shut down all activity. One of the things that it drives it even further is social activity. 99% of all social TV buzz between 7 and midnight was attributed to the NBC Olympics coverage. And to a degree, we're seeing this happen more and more, is that you can screen it on multiple devices, you can experience it on multiple devices. We have 2 apps. We have a live streaming app, and then we have a primetime companion. And because the primetime companion is tied to a pre-taped Olympics, effectively, we can guide you along the way so that you're enhanced with your experience. And you can see that the interesting thing was that during the course of this Olympics, 2 groups really exploded. Kids went up 35%, teens went up 25%. And one of the reasons that that happened is because we were in a device that is tied to their hip at virtually any moment. You can see that teens 13 to 17, 70% of the time that they were watching agree that social media increased their television viewing. So the TV was accessible to them. They were able to talk about it with their friends, and therefore they were significantly more engaged. 18 to 34, 73% of the people said that they were more engaged, and even people a little bit older, 56% said that social media had a significant impact on their viewing. As you can see, it's sort of a transformative experience, the Olympics, and it affects people in a number of different ways. So we're now just about 100 days away from the Sochi Games. We will have a major roadblock that happens during that time, and you'll begin leading up to it. And then one interesting thing about this particular Olympics that is from a marketer's perspective, I would see that I've got actually 2 minutes left, so I'm going to use this. And as a marketer, why not actually do a little bit of selling, is that we actually have an 18th day of the Olympics. Normally the Olympics starts on a Friday, which is the opening ceremony. Because in Sochi we have 12 additional events, we're actually beginning the Olympics in prime time a day earlier. Shaun White slope style. We have a new event called team figure skating, as well as the moguls, which is always a primetime event. So as a marketer, we're having to figure out how to utilize that. And there's a lot of ways that we will be explaining that, and I'd like to reveal them, but I simply can't. So that's pretty much the that's pretty much a look to Sochi right now. I have basically 1 minute left, so if there is one question that you might have, I'd be happy to answer it for 1 minute. Otherwise, I'll turn it back to Shelley and keep this thing running. Okay. Okay, well, it's a very good question, and it's actually more of a question for both advertisers as well as consumers. From an advertiser standpoint, they're a little concerned about it. Some of the athletes are concerned about it as well. Quite honestly, we wish we could do more to mitigate that and to make it not only safer, but also to change the Russians' mind on that particular subject. However, as a marketer, the awareness of the games increased about 50% as a result of that controversy. So is it bad news? Was it good news? I can't quite tell, but it did a significant amount of my work for me. Anyone else? I've got 28 seconds. Sold. Thanks very much.